Welcome back to my workshop. I have been hard at work, trying to finalize the squad for the season. I've looked through the pre-season highlights and followed the stats from the games. The main takeaways have been that Arsenal seem to have settled into a lovely rhythm. They have beaten some good competition and done so in style. They seem to be able to press much better in the final third with Jesus. There have looked promising signs coming from Manchester United under their new manager Ten Hag. Plenty of price decreases have offered FPL managers potential bargains. However, much like Leicester assets, their fixtures aren't the best at the beginning. So maybe until the early wildcard they might be in a void for the first month. Watching the Community Shield showed that both these sides were not at full velocity yet, so they could start a little slower than expected. I thought in that game that Haaland and Nunez showed great potential. Some excellent movement and their physicality looks suited to the robust Premier League. I think they easily get 20+ goals playing for those two clubs. Nunez might be one to target with the early wildcard as Klopp seems likely to start him from the bench at the start of the season. The Pep roulette makes it difficult to judge each City asset, as I thought Grealish and Mahrez looked worse than Foden and Alvarez. I am still tempted to add Cucurella into the side so that if the City transfer gets completed, I will be able to take advantage of his early points, as I think he would thrive in that City lineup. Okay, enough of the scouting book, let's find out who I've selected for the squad to start the season. Welcome back to the workshop. Starting with the goalkeepers. I have thought long and hard about this position. Many different options. To me, this one is a roll of a dice. For the first 8 game weeks, every keeper has a bad fixture or two. I think starting Mendy seems the safer option, plus gives the best flexibility. I don't really like spending money on keepers, so the 5.5 million price still seems high. Plus Spurs, City and Liverpool all have so many other options in the game that I wouldn't want to be restricted trying to get one of their assets if they hit top form during the season. Of the 5 million options, I like quite a lot of them. Ramsdale has nice fixtures at the start. For me, it's coin flip between Mendy and him. Pope and Saw have great games in the first couple game weeks. I have thought about taking one of these and then switching down to Raya. Another keeper I really like from game week 3. The only other option I have given serious consideration is the Leeds keeper Meslier. Leeds seem to have great fixtures except for the Chelsea game. This could be the most risky choice as Leeds' defense was shocking last season. Also, I've downgraded to a 4 million keeper. This is for budget reasons. I also have no plans to use bench boost in the first half of the season. I chose Ward as there are rumors he could become Leicester's number 1. There have been strong rumors that Schmeichel has signed for another club. Potentially this could leave Ward starting for a few game weeks until a suitable replacement is found. Onto the defenders. In defense, there have been a couple of changes. I have removed Cancelo. Now, this was a tough decision. My thoughts are that City do have a few injuries back there with Laporte out, Stones and Walker needing some match fitness. Plus, I also like the 5 million option of Walker or Cucurella if they sign him. So with this train of thought, I think it would be better to avoid them in game week 1 as they have a tricky fixture against Hammers. For Cancelo replacement, I chose Robo. For me, I like the look of Liverpool in the Community Shield. Salah, Diaz, Nunez, Trent and Robo all stood out. It's quite difficult to narrow down Liverpool options to only 3. I perhaps went with the safer option, selecting Robo. He was in excellent form towards the end of last season, and I can only see him carrying that into this season. He always offers so much attacking threat. Plus, with set pieces, there is always a potential double-digit haul. The one knock I have on Cancelo is his final delivery or finishing can be quite poor. He actually got into more dangerous positions and had more shots than Trent and Robo, which makes me question why in a City side he did not score more. Also, there could be more competition for places in that position, and with the Pep roulette, having a premium defender that might not be as nailed as last season gives me enough doubt to drop him from the team. I downgraded Doherty for the extra million in cash. Conte doesn't appear to have found his definitive first 11 yet. Until more information is found, I don't think he's worth the gamble quite yet. I chose to go to Patterson as I've been impressed watching highlights with this young lad. Frank seems to like to play attacking full backs, so this could turn Patterson into a bargain. It was close between him and Nico Williams, another great option at 4 million. Seeing as Patterson will likely be rotated with Andreas Perea for number 1 bench option, I don't see the point in loading up on an expensive bench when we most likely will be wildcarding before game week 9. Next up, the midfield. So to the midfield. This position has many great options. This group and the defenders have the biggest selection of choices. For me, it's best to cover all the price points. Salah covers the premium price point, so it will be easy to switch to any of the other 10 million or higher mids. Next significant price point is the 8 million option. FPL this year has provided plenty of options in this bracket. I have gone to Bowen instead of Saka. I really like both, but it will be easier to drop down from Bowen's 8.5 million than to be potentially priced out if there are early price rises. I think Bowen is flying under the radar mainly due to having the City opening game. He managed to score 2 good goals in the same fixture only a few months ago. City have injuries in defense and looked vulnerable to the diagonal ball over the top. Likely will play against Cancelo and Ake, so should get the better of that matchup. After the City game, Hammer's fixtures are very good up until game week 5. I really like Bowen as he was super consistent all season last year, so for me he is still the best option at this price point, even though he has gone up to 8.5 million. I've upgraded Bailey to Martinelli, this due to transferring out Saka. I think you will need at least a couple of gunner assets early in the season. Martinelli has been in great form pre-season and seems to be nailed left-wing starter. Watching the highlights as well, you can see the front three are fluid, so he has been playing central in the box at times. This position really came down to Rashford, Martinelli and Bailey. All look super bargains, but I went with the player that had the better fixtures for the first 8 game weeks. I've kept Neto even after hearing that Jimenez is out for 8 weeks. This concerns me longer term, however the opening 2 game weeks are still far too strong to ignore. I was looking to keep him until the wild card. Now I'm leaning towards doing an early transfer game week 3. Unless the Wolves attack looks even better with Potence playing the false 9. Pereira definitely keeps his spot. Having an attacking mid that takes set pieces and starts most games for 4.5 million is too much of a bargain. I did contemplate having Bailey instead, but he would have still been on the bench. Early in the season there shouldn't be much rotation, so Bailey could have been stuck on the bench. Seemed much better to keep Pereira and take the extra 0.5 million to keep in the bank so that we can react to early price rises. On to the forwards. So last of all, the forwards. Not much change in this position group. I have contemplated swapping Kane in for his week 1 matchup against Southampton. Kane and Son usually do well in this fixture previously. And Spurs have looked strong in pre-season, especially Kane looks to already be in top shape finding and creating goals. But I've decided to stick with Haaland as I don't want to be handcuffed, having to book a transfer after the first week. Also, having Salah captain makes this an easier choice to stick with Haaland. Watching the Community Shield, I noticed that Haaland and Nunez have a very different playing style, with both quite direct in their movements. I think it will take both clubs time to adjust in a team chemistry kind of way. But on the eye test they both look exceptional talents. I like Haaland more as I think he will be on pens, plus his movement and nose for goal already showed glimpses against arguably the best defense in world football other than City. It wouldn't be a surprise to me if Haaland can break 30 plus goals this year. I think they have found the future Ballon d'Or winner for many years. Nunez is one to keep an eye on though. I might wait until the early wildcard, but I want to be able to react if he becomes Liverpool's first choice central striker. On to Jesus, what a pre-season he has had. Arsenal look completely rejuvenated from the disappointment of missing out on top 4. Arteta has molded this young group into playing a similar style of football to City, but with his own personality twist on it. Jesus just seems so undervalued, and with the great fixtures at the start, can really add some big points at only 8 million. My last pick has changed from Greenwood to Plange. I won't hide the fact that I do quite like the name Plange, and this was the main reason in my method of madness for transferring him in. Also, I don't really see any cheap options in forwards I like. There are a couple at 5.5 million with the Palace options and Brighton new striker. Then it's quite a jump up to 7 million for the only other options I like, which are Martial and Tony. They actually rotate nicely if you start Martial and then transfer Tony in game week 3. However, using 7 million on the last forward spot really begins to restrict you in other areas. So then it comes down to that option or Jesus, and I can't justify dropping Jesus in the form him and Arsenal are in. But potentially in the early wildcard they could be options, as I think Martial is extremely undervalued. Up next is a little season prediction for a bit of fun. I will start with a little league predictor. Starting from top to bottom. I really can only see City and Liverpool being the main contenders. It will be very close between them once again. However, I think this time it will come down to the head-to-head matchups. Especially in Cups, Liverpool appear to have the edge against City when they play. Klopp will also have them fired with even more extra motivation after seeing the title slip away in the last 15 minutes of the last game in the season. Now for the last two spots in Champions League qualification. I would say that down from 3rd to 6th there could be less than 10 points this season. It will be a tight, grueling battle for these final two spots between Arsenal, Spurs, Chelsea and United. I actually have it in that exact order as well. For me, the second half of the season Spurs and Gunners were getting more consistent results than Chelsea and even nearly drew them into a top 4 fight. I think both will start the season better and will leapfrog Chelsea, who I think have shown signs they could be really struggling with Tuchel-demanding nature. It really took a toll towards the end of the season, making them look very fatigued. Ten Hag has United already playing better football, but I still see them as a project. To me, they look similar to Arsenal last year, where you will see a good improvement throughout the season. 7th is perhaps my biggest shock prediction, Crystal Palace. I really like the squad they have built, it's full of young promising talent. Eze and Olisa are my rising stars of the league this year. I'm expecting big things from both, and with Zaha offering the leadership and experience, I can only see big potential down there in the south. 8th is West Ham, who I would have put higher, but the Europa League showed their squad depth isn't quite there, plus they have a few aging stars. 9th is big money spending Newcastle. The Toon Army were in scintillating form towards the end of the season, with Eddie Howe really turning the club's fortunes around. A full pre-season plus a few additions really could spark this side into a strong top half finish. Leicester next, they haven't purchased anyone significant in the summer, even though they look to need a few additions. I'm getting strong Everton vibes from last season, when they didn't spend much in summer and were dragged into a relegation scrap. I think Rodgers is too good a manager and Leicester still have decent talent for that to happen, but I cannot see them finishing any higher than 10th. Aston Villa start the bottom half of the league. I have them 11th. They appear to have assembled a strong squad with plenty of talent in a lot of key areas. Gerrard has tried to change the football philosophy at the club with mixed results. It will be a big season for Gerrard, one that he will need to improve on the form they had last season. 12th is Brighton. I think Potter is doing an incredible job down there in the south coast. They play such measured and controlled football, even though their individual talent level isn't of the highest standard. If Cucurella leaves, then this side begins to look a little thin. And I could see them sliding down to Southampton in a relegation scrap. Next, Brentford, a very solid first season from the Bees. A couple of nice additions to the squad. However, I'm not sure they have enough creativity to challenge for top half. But they are building a solid foundation to stay in the league. 14th are Wolves. Much like Southampton, their form was awful towards the end of last season, and I can see that carrying over. They haven't really added anyone to the squad, and they lacked goals in the side, so I think they are the biggest fallers of the year. 15th is Everton. Lampard will have a full pre-season after securing their survival. He managed to turn Goodison Park into an electric atmosphere that helped them stay up. A couple of strong additions already. To me, they look like they will improve from last season and avoid a relegation scrap. Southampton next. This is definitely a side I think will be fighting for survival. Their defense looks shaky and their forward line is inconsistent in terms of production. Perhaps a shock next is that I have Fulham avoiding the drop. For me, they had a good run last year in the Championship. I think it will give some more players confidence. Plus, a lot of squad have Premier League experience, which will help to adapt to the league early. Also predicting they purchase a few more players. Leeds are next. I didn't personally see much improvement with their new manager, only that they didn't concede as often. They have lost Rafinha, who will be a huge loss, and along with their talisman Phillips, I can't see them replacing that level of talent. The last two spots are Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest. They both look far away from the talent required to stay in the league. Maybe with a few good signings this could change, as Newcastle proved how key it is to gain decent Premier League talent. That's my complete Premier League prediction. Leave some comments on where you think I've gone wrong. On to the award predictor. For the Premier League official awards, I think Liverpool will clean up all the awards. I have Salah with the PFA Player of the Year and Golden Boot. Liverpool will be fully motivated to do well this year, and I believe Salah missing the World Cup will only help his individual numbers. He noticeably fell off his production after the African Nations Cup. However, he will gain that advantage over most of the league when the World Cup is held halfway through the season. Klopp will win Manager of the Year. After building this hugely successful machine that is Liverpool at the moment. They seem to have depth at every position with young talent also emerging. I really like Harvey Elliott. He will be in contention for Young Player of the Year. I think mainly due to the surprise he could sneak this award for a clean sweep. For sure with the new rules on the award that the player has to be under 21 at the start of the season. This will make Haaland and Saka strong favorites. I however see Olise at Palace and Elliott as top talents that will surprise a few this season. Now for the last bit of fun, FPL Awards Predictor. For the FPL Awards, I have created a few for fun. I have the best value player, the biggest point scorer, and the most frustrating player this year. For the best value player I have gone, Jesus. He looks like he will be competing for top point scorer in the forwards position, which at 8 million is a bargain. Rashford is second. The huge price drop just seems crazy from FPL. So an easy choice for value, especially as United already look better in the Ten Hag system. This is why I've also gone Martial at third. I don't really see Ronaldo featuring much for United this season. So Martial could be the only central striker option which could prove incredible value at 7 million. On to the biggest point scorer, this can only be Salah for me. The advantage of not having the World Cup will really pay off for him. Second is a little harder, but I think Trent can actually have an even better season than his previous excellent ones. Third I think will be a surprise, but I have Sterling. He always produces each season and now being the main man at Chelsea should see a bigger production. Seems strange FPL decreased his price as he looks to be in a better situation. Most frustrating player I think could be Mahrez. There's a lot of FPL managers thinking that with Sterling gone, Mahrez will get more game time, so an increase in points surely. Well, I think Pep will still rotate a lot with Foden, Alvarez and even Silva playing that right wing role. Next frustrating player could be Perisic at Spurs. I'm not sure at his age that he can play a full season, so I'm expecting Conte to rotate the wing-backs this year. I also think Chilwell will be a slow starter. It was a long-term injury, so it will take a fair amount of time to regain that fine form he had before that injury. That's all from me in my season opening special. I hope everyone starts the season well and look forward to seeing you next week, where I will be doing match reactions from my team's performance. Hopefully no one gets sent to my office. I will also reveal my scouting report from the opening weekend with future plans. Plus obviously revealing the team's selection. Please leave comments on YouTube, Twitter, or Instagram. I would love to hear your feedback. As always, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. See you next week.